Greetings. Today I'm looking at again, for the second day, the Bonefire Tarot, which is a new tarot deck that I purchased. I'm not sure why I purchased it. It had been on my wish list, and I found it really dissatisfactory when I received it. I did the cards; they were lovely cards to look at. The deck was written nicely, but the cards themselves were awful. The cards were way too big, number one. They were way too thick, and they were sticky. They were hard to shuffle. Pretty much impossible to shuffle. But I liked the images, and I trusted a few tarot experts here on YouTube who really liked the deck, who had it and really liked it. So I thought I would give it a fair shake, and so I went ahead. If you saw my video that I put out a few days ago, I went ahead and trimmed the deck, trimmed it smaller so that it was more comfortable. I could at least hold it in my hand. I edged it because I thought it was pretty, and I was very happy with the images on the card, how they really seem to stand out more with less border. I really like that. They're still impossible to shuffle, a riffle shuffle like I'm used to, but I'm going to try to learn how to shuffle this way. I don't know. I'm going to try to do it. But anyway, that's only the first step. That was only the first step in auditioning the deck, so to speak. I want to be able to read the cards. How do the cards read? Now, that's always the bottom line. That's why we have the cards. And usually when I get a new deck, I just, there's other things about the deck that I really love. Like when I got the Tarot of the Enchanted Forest, I think it's called, that I was using for the first part of this year. I like the images really well. I like the feel of the cards. The first thing I noticed when I shuffled the cards, they were easy to shuffle. But they weren't just easy to shuffle. This feels very comfortable in my hand. Very comfortable. I kept this deck actually in use for 3 months as my daily deck. So that's how much I liked it, which I never do that usually. But anyway, when I get a new deck, I knew right away I was going to keep the deck. So I really started just after I had cleansed it and things. I just started reading with it. This deck, I wanted to know if I was going to be able to relate to the deck. So I was going to do this a little differently, and I was going to pose a real issue to the deck, a real question, raise a real issue with this deck to see what kind of response I got in return. And I'm doing something somewhat new with this video in that I am sharing that with you because this is a personal reading. This is something that I don't normally do. I don't normally give too much personal information. I give some, but we have to maintain some of our privacy here on YouTube. And it's not necessarily, if I'm sharing something to help you learn how to read tarot, it's not necessary that I give you all my personal business in the process. So usually when we do some of these videos here on my tarot series, I'm doing a lot of scenarios, like maybe we're just looking at energies. Maybe I'm just saying what kind of energies is around us right now, like real general kind of readings. I might be showing examples of what if situations, scenarios. What if this card is near this card? I've done a lot of those. Comparing how this card might read in a reading from one deck, how another card in a different deck would read in the same place in that reading. We've done those kind of scenarios, but I don't think that I've ever really done a personal, in-depth reading on YouTube that was my business. I've done them for other people, they're private. Well, I haven't done them for me and published it. But I thought this technique was important for me to do. This exercise was important for me to do to give the deck a fair shake. To see how well it communicates with me. And I thought I would share that process with you. Now, in the back of the book, in the back of the Bonefire Tarot book, there are several readings. One is a 3-card spread that's specifically for Beltane, which I will do next because we're coming up into Beltane in a month. It'll be Beltane a little less than a month. But this one also is this deck. This reading that I did today is called the Bonefire 8-card Enlightener. Okay, and it's made to shed light on an issue and offer suggestions which might be produced as a result of actions taken in the light of the issue. Okay, so it meant to do like something that some decision that I've made, and what are the effects going to be of the decision, basically. And I really like it. It's a very nice spread. Here's an image of it. I'm going to turn the camera around when I show the reading, but it's not really so easy to see. I don't have the best camera angles and lighting, but it's in regards to the Bonefire. The Bonefire deck, I might have mentioned in the past, if you might not have heard me, is the primitive term for bonfire, the preface to the word bonfire. At Beltane, the Celtic people have a big ritual ceremony where they their hearth fires are extinguished, and then they take and build a common bonfire, my bonfire, for everybody. Brings stuff to the fire. Now it's called bonfire because one of the common things burned are the bones left over from the animals that they have slaughtered during the course of the year. Of course, not every bone, but they bring bones ceremoniously to the fire that have been saved up from their herds that were slaughtered, and then they bring other things. They might bring clothing that was worn or whatever, old things, because the idea is to throw in the old and then build a fire, throw the old in, burn it away, and then they take everybody takes some light from that fire home to their hearth, and they relight their own hearth fires. From that, something new comes out of burning the old, which is a lovely thing. So this is the kind of issue that I thought I could read for you this time. And I want to say that it's a personal issue that I thought might be helpful to look into with this kind of a reading. And I want to say you'll have a little better understanding when I actually show you the positions of the cards and how they relate to each other. But basically, it is an issue for me. I'll give you a little background. I don't want to get too personal, but many years ago, when our children were young, were small even, we had a very, very close friendship with another couple, actually, in a family. Very close. We had a lot in common. We had children about the same age, and we had a lot of common social activity. We were very, very close. We were close for several years. Excuse me. Spending a lot of time together, doing a lot of things. Your typical friendships. I'm moving this. I don't mean to move it. And then, for some reason, something happened, and that was ended. It ended. I think it started to end gradually at first. There was this slight pulling away from each other, and then as that happens, we slowly just ended it. It was no big argument or anything like that. It wasn't that kind of a thing. It just was, when it was done, it was done. And I actually think we kind of felt, my husband and I at least felt that it was a sudden ending, even though in retrospect we say it was not. But it felt like it was in any case. And that departure remained for 30 years. Like, not 30, but pretty close to 30 years. Now, in recent years, there has been a little attempt to be, we're trying to be civil because we live near each other, we live close to each other, and we live in the same place. And we have, every once in a while, we would find a reason that we would run into each other or whatever. So we were civil, we were always civil, but we always remained this distance. There was always a distance. And of course, I don't want to get into too much detail, but I want to say that this kind of a thing happens among people all the time. Well, we just recently found out that one of them is seriously ill, and the natural thing is to reach out and to offer support. And of course, it was sort of a difficult thing to do. I don't know why that is, but because you're not a close friend, when you're not being close with somebody, some of those times are very intimate and private, and you don't want to intrude on those intimate, private times. But yet, this is the time, really. It could be the time to really say what you need to say. That, you don't want, you wish them well, you wish them health, you wish them, an end to their, this must be a really difficult time for them. You hope it has a positive outcome, and if not, if there's anything you can do, you might want to offer it. But you understand my point when I say it's a little tricky because we're not in their everyday lives. So anyway, part of me, I have to admit, was a little hesitant to even reach out to them because I am always, in all the other times we've had an opportunity to maybe reconnect in some way, my reaction was to hold back because it's painful when people walk away from you, and I try to remain, it's protecting yourself to not want to get too involved in something that might not be a good thing. 30 years or 25 years or how many years, it's a long time, and a lot of changes have been made. And the things that we had in common 30 years ago, I don't think we do anymore. So it might not be the best thing to try to rekindle the relationship, but yet those old feelings are there, and you don't want to, and you really do have a sincere feeling of wanting them to be well and to be happy and to be healthy. And so I'm asking the cards to understand this is the issue that I'm putting forth to the Bonefire. A friendship that is old and was ended. Whether we want to take, what do we want to take from this act of trying to relight that a little bit, trying to, soak up that fire a little bit? Is there something there that, is this a positive thing that we want to do? Or should we just say, oh, that's too bad, and in our private lives, maybe offer prayers or offer, healing circles or whatever for this person privately without having this connection. So this is an issue that I am putting before, and you're going to get a chance to see how these cards reacted to my question. So I'm going to turn the camera around so that you're going to get a chance to see the actual cards. Okay, I've modified the layout of the spread a little bit because I wanted to be able to get my cards all in the camera. But basically, what we have here is these cards down at the bottom here are cards 1 and 2. And just like in the Celtic Cross, there's card 1 and card 2 because they are to be read together. And card 1, the one underneath, is the card that is, first of all, these cards represent the bones of the issue and what causes them to form a dilemma for consideration. So, card 1, in my case, is the Fool, and card 2 is the Ace of Swords. We're going to get to the meanings in a few minutes, but I just want to briefly go through. Then we have card 3, 4, and 5 here above, which these 3 cards speak of the energies produced from the lighting of the bonfire. What is coming out of this action of me getting in touch with old friends, rekindling that friendship a little bit? What is going to come out of that? And then we go down here to cards 6 and 7. And cards 6 and 7 relate to that which remains after the bones are burned and the flames have died down. And then finally we have the so what is reborn and renewed as the cause of this cleansing. So as you can see, it very much relates, and it's a very appropriate reading to do at this time of the year. So that's another reason I was very interested in looking at the Bonefire Tarot and giving it a real good try here, because this is this time of the year where it's all about the Bonefire right now at this time of the year, coming into at the end here of Ostara, coming up into Beltane. So it's a really good deck to use for these months in the future here coming up. So if this works out, we're going to give it lots of tests. Lots of tests. But anyway, okay, so let's look first of all. We have these two issues. And the first card is card 1, all about the dried bones. And that is the Fool, which I thought was interesting because we're starting at the very beginning with the card of the Fool. And the Fool, it very much in this deck, remember, I like to consider really what the author has in mind as much as I can, or the meaning. And the author here is talking about the idea of beginning this new adventure without any idea about the outcome. And isn't that what my question's about? I thought that was so interesting. The decision to do something you always should do. And it also mentions, which I thought was very, very interesting, perhaps to heal a rift or to make amends. You don't know where that's going to lead. Well, that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. But it talks about all steps being in the right direction, and I think that's very much where I am. I mean well. I don't mean to sound nosy. That's, of course, my first, when I read about this problem, heard about the problem through social media, of course, and then I contacted my friend personally, privately. My first hesitation was I don't want to sound like I'm just being nosy. I don't mean to be nosy at all. I was really very concerned, and I feel pain about the situation. I really am. I'm worried. I'm very worried, legitimately worried. But anyway, but it talks about that all steps are really in the right direction. We're making the right direction, but it also mentions if wrong, I'm properly prepared for it. Now, this is where we sort of deviate a little bit from the Fool, because our question when we look at the Fool in the Rider-Waite deck, one of the comments we make is how much can the man carry in that little knapsack that he has on his back, over his shoulder? And she doesn't look too much more prepared. She doesn't have things with her. She's not carrying much with her. She still has that same little knapsack. But the idea is that maybe the fact that I'm considering this in the tarot to begin with, this question I'm posing to the deck, indicates that I'm very well aware that this could lead into a can of worms that maybe I don't want to open. But it's sort of encouraging. It talks about an encouraging beginning to something that should be done. And then we have the issue that is crossing, which we have here, which I love this description. This is the flesh and the flavor left on the bones. Like you throw the bones, you get bones, you eat the meat off the bone, and there's some bone meat left on there, and the fire is that's gonna help fuel the fire, that protein matter that is gonna come off. And I really like this Ace of Swords a lot, because first of all, the Ace is in the Rider-Waite, and it even mentions that in this book here how they're all this arm coming out and holding the sword, and it mentions in this deck that the Ace it knows its job. It doesn't need an arm to tell it what to do. It knows its job, and it was just indicated by the eye there. And also, that it's clear it's making its job is to cut that apple in half with one swift stroke. Make a clean cut. And without a mess. Go straight to the issue without making any mess. Which, in my case, the issue is the man is ill. I wished him well. I don't want him to suffer. I worry about the effect this is going to have on his family. And I worry about him in this time. We worry about everybody all the time being ill, but specifically, especially now when there's, we have the coronavirus around us. And this is we worry about anybody in a weakened state, of course. For having to go into surgery or whatever at this time is very frightening. Very frightening. So, but the truth of the matter is, why did I reconnect? Because he's ill and I meet him well. That's cutting straight to the issue. It's straight to the issue. It says here that the rules, this Ace of Swords rules over a place where intellect and thought are king. Okay, there's other elements around. We have the element of fire here and water below and the air, the earth. The earth, but they're taking second place to the air, the element of air. So they're not important in this card, and it mentions the sword giving the answer, while others, the other elements, are lying in their bed. They're lying there waiting, not being used. Okay. So I had the idea that this was to happen, and I'm doing it. And I just went forward without giving it much thought, any more thought. I could have given it a lot of thought. I tried not to give it too much thought, and I went directly in. Okay. Now what happens? 3, 4, and 5 are the cards that speak of what happens as a result of this action that I took. Okay. And we have these 3 cards together, 3, 4, and 5. I will hold them up so you can get a better look at them. But the first one is this spark that is ignited, and that's card 3 here. This is a spark that is ignited by this flame, whatever's coming, whatever's burning here in the bonfire. And here we have the King of Coins. I really hope I'm holding that up well. I can't see my screen, so I'm just guessing that that's the right place. The King of Coins here is representative by a card representative. He's like the great provider. He's the paternal caregiver. He's like the Santa Claus of the tarot deck, and that's what he looks like, very much like in this picture. Who is a loving provider for sure. He gives gifts, and he gives gifts for free, but are they free? Is the question brought up by the card. His price, yes, for the gifts are unquestioning love and adoration. You have to believe in Santa. You have to do what Santa wants. If Santa says to be a good boy, you got to be a good boy. You got to listen to your mother and father. There's certain rules that go with Santa. You got to go to bed and be in bed when he comes. You can't be hiding downstairs somewhere to see him when he comes down the chimney. All the stories that we tell our children, there are conditions to the love that Santa will give them. Well, that's kind of what the King of Coins is doing. The King of Coins is like a businessman. He grants his favors, but he grants his favors in return for attention and for love. And how does that relate to this? The question then would come up. It's not a very attractive question, but I would say, it would have to say to me, am I, after all these years, seeking out attention from these people? Am I saying, because I've thought about them for 30 years, have they thought about me for 30 years? Am I being caring and showing sympathy for what's going on in their lives? And I hope to gain, what do I hope to gain from it? Do I hope to gain attention? Do I hope to gain a return of their affection to me, which they have taken away? Is that possible? Is that possible that little spark is there? Is that, I will give it. If they don't answer, am I going to stop giving it? If they don't answer my inquiry and they do not accept my offer of praying for them and being the support system for them, if that goes unwelcomed, am I going to take that away? Am I going to stop praying? You understand? That could be the spark. That could be something that comes off of it. We don't want that. Well, we'll see how that happens. That's something to consider. Then we have card number 4, which is the warmth produced by the spark of the energies. that are here in the Bonefire. And we have the Five of Cups. The Five of Cups usually is about walking away from something, but I want to say something here, that we look carefully into the card, and this points out, the author points out, that only three of the cups are completely overturned into the water and spilling into the water. Two of the cups remain upright, and they still have something in them. So what that indicates is there has been loss of affection, and there has been loss, and there has been outpour of emotion, but the love has not gone. All of the love is not gone. All of the affection is not gone. There's still it's not too late for these cups to pick up these cups and hold on to those and rescue them from being swept away with everything else. So what it's saying is, even yes, 30 years is a long time, but is it forever? Is it too long? There's time now, but if we don't say something now and reach out now, what's going to happen? How are we going to feel if something really does happen to this friend, this old friend, and we don't reach out now to offer our support? Card 5 is the light that is emitted from this light. Excuse me 1 minute. West Harrison, Indiana. Colleen, don't think so. The light that is emitted from the Bonefire. And I love this. She's very obviously she was given lemons and she's making lemonade. That's a common expression that we have all the time, that we say when you're being dealt a bad hand, you make the best out of it. And so this is saying that the light emitted, making something from nothing. Life's lessons are teaching us that more can be gleaned of making something from nothing. Life lessons teach us the possibility, more than one. Excuse me. Life lessons teach us that, I have some notes here that I don't want to forget. Because I did the reading before I did the filming, so there are points that I wanted. I make some notes of my points, and now I'm making a mess of my points. Excuse me. Anyway, I want to point out here that this card is talking about the life lessons that they teach us more than can be gleaned from book learning. We have to learn from life lessons. It's one thing to say, we can hear all day, hold on to old friends, don't wait till it's too late. How many times do people say, don't wait till it's too late to tell people how you feel? This card is telling us that that's a hard lesson to learn. The lesson of losing a friend and never really telling them, never really fixing something, never really resolving something, giving closure at least to something, that's a horrible lesson that is learned in a bad way. That can't ever be brought back. So this is the universe telling you to respond with some kind of action. Don't just sit there. Do not just sit there. Make some lemonade. Yes, it's sad. It's very sad. If I could say now, I could say this in two ways. Oh my God, 30 years has gone by. What if this is the end of life for this person? 30 years have gone by, that we've wasted 30 years. How horrible that is, right? We could say that, and then we would be very depressed. That'd be very sad. And we go, well, that's the way it is, and we would just sulk off, right? But what if we say, well, the man is alive. He's still alive. There's a chance to get something from that, even if it's a brief time, it is something that can heal the heart. It's something that can heal the heart. It's something that may be helping with his illness. It may be something that will help him with his family. If something does happen to him and he does not survive, won't that be helpful to his family? To have some people left to stand by him. Would that be helpful to him to know that people are going to be there standing by his wife, his children, whatever? Okay? So it's not action. Some action is always better than no action, is what this is saying. So I thought that was very appropriate. Okay. Now we have done here in position 6 and 7. 6 and 7 are cards that relate to that which remain after the bones are burned. And after these flames have died down, what is left? What can we expect to be left from all of this? What is left after this fire has burned? Well, here we have the Eight of Cups in position 6. In position 6, which has talked about what has been burned or damaged and rendered impossible by the fire. What is completely, excuse me, let me drink. By the fire. Well, here we have the Eight of Cups, and we know about the Eight of Cups. The Eight of Cups is, this person is walking away from some emotionally damaging situation to avoid further hurt. That would be the alternative, right? I could say to myself, I don't want to get in touch with these people. I just want to leave it alone because I don't want to be hurt again. I don't want to restoke any. I don't want to relive and rehash anything in the past. Do we even remember what happened 30 years ago? Do any of us actually remember that? Do any of us want to is it good to live on the memory of what we were 30 years ago instead of trying to worry about what we could be now when we're all completely changed and different and old and okay? So there's a tendency to want to walk away from that. But maybe sometimes it's impossible to walk away. Maybe that's what this card is saying. That because this card, there's an Eight of Cups, there's only 7 cards in the picture. One of the cards is missing, suggesting that he has one, so he is taking something away with him. He's not turning his back on everything. And that one cup that he's taking will nourish his memories. It also, which I found, I'm not sure if I found it disturbing or not, that another reading on this card, another take on this card was maybe communication from somebody who's passed. Something you need but would only you need to hear, but it's a kind of communication, like I'm glad to hear from somebody who's passed, but I would rather they did not pass and I didn't have the communication, if you know what I'm saying. It's like that kind of regret. I don't want that to happen. That's the point. You don't want that to happen and not have that communication. This has got to, this ability to completely walk away, to wipe your hands clean and just wipe, which I have been trying to do for 30 years, it's really not what's meant to be. I need to, hold on to what I have in that hand, in my hand. There's a reason I carried it with me, and I need to go from that, I think, is what it's trying to say. And finally, not finally, but this card, number 7, is the, what are the ashes? What lies within the ashes? And how may we learn from and honor that which we have left behind? How can we honor it? Well, I found this a curious card because this is the Two of Coins, which we usually associate, we call it the juggler in a lot of decks. But it is like the self that we are and versus our internal self. What we show to people versus what we are inside. And it seems like we're always juggling that. And it mentions if we're too busy juggling that, there's no time to do anything. If we are always juggling, there's no time to do anything, to actually do any actions, right? To see your plans through. And making sure that the moment you're living right now is the moment that you intend to live. Now let's apply this to the situation. Walking away from this friendship, walking away from this situation, again, is still playing that game, is still juggling, because I have to say that any rift, if you want to call it, that has occurred in a friendship that's lasted for 30 years, but you can't even remember what it was about. There's been a lot of playing of games in that time. That has to be logical, right? And we have to pretend we don't care, and they pretend they don't care. Like, I don't know what it was, but we don't care. We're going to go on with our life. We've both done that for 30 years. But it comes right down to it. We have spent all that time juggling, and we've never addressed any issues. If we would have put that juggling down and worried about how it looks and what they're going to think of us and who's going to give in to who and that whole kind of playing those games, if we would have put that aside, we would have probably solved the rift. And we've been in a better place now, and I wouldn't be worried about this issue. Excuse me. I wouldn't be worried about this issue in the first place. Okay? So this card is really very much learning that you just don't want to play games. And am I furthering this game by even having this reading in the first place? I sincerely, wholeheartedly reached out to these people because I really was sorry to hear that man was ill. I was really, sincerely wanting him to heal, wanting him to know that we will do whatever we can do to help him and his family at this time that's a sincere offer. Okay, I'm not just trying to be polite. I don't even want to go there. I don't want to worry about what has happened over the last 30 years. That is so unimportant. And to even worry about it at this point is back playing that game, isn't it? This is the game that got us here in the first place, and I don't want to relive it. So I'm going to put that down, and I'm going to say that it is, I would say that it probably is the right thing to get in touch with them and just forget about all this nonsense. Be honest. Be straightforward. And let's see what the cards say about that. Here we have the Five of Wands in the final position, which is what is reborn and renewed as a result of this cleansing. What has come out of this? Which was a curious card because it is the Five of Wands. But here we go. The Five of Wands the wands in this deck, I need to say, they are pine cones. And we usually see the Five of Wands, and we look at the Five of Wands in the Rider-Waite as a competition, maybe a game rather than a war. It's between like young men, right? Playing war games, practicing at being, a play battle, playing at war to try to hone their skills, right? That it doesn't normally mean a big rift. It just means little things, games. And this card is mentioning, the author of this deck mentions a childhood game, which in England they call, I don't know what they call it. There's a game they play with what they call the horseshoe chestnuts, that they pick from trees that are, they're chestnuts that you can't eat. I tried to look it up and see what they were. And they put them on strings, and they take turns plummeting each other with these, hitting each other with them. And the idea is if, I guess the chestnuts sort of break apart, you lose, I guess, if your thing kind of falls apart before somebody else. So they might make some great strides to try to put coatings on it or dry it out or do certain things to make their chestnut last longer so that the weapon stays better, and then they would win. But the point is made, the point is made that, here, that's what you see here, these chestnuts, these big chestnuts. But the point is that if there are too many people involved, if there's too much action in the game, if too many people are swinging these chestnuts at each other, their strings are going to get all tangled and nobody's going to win, okay? So this is an important of learning. It's a game that you play by, there has to be some kind of strategy. There cannot be just people constantly just playing games and swinging their chestnuts and without thinking, without strategy, without thinking, trying to, protect themselves, offering some kind of protection or offering some kind of, to keep themselves from making movements that are not productive, whatever, in the game. So the idea is learning from your mistakes, okay, from your life lessons, not just keep playing over and over again. You have to learn. When you don't win, what happens? Why didn't you not win? So these games that we play with people, we all do it. We play games with people all the time where we don't want to show our true feelings. Maybe we're embarrassed or whatever. And instead of that, we just play these little games. Like we just pretend everything's cool, or we pretend like, oh, I was just busy. You know how many people have had friends that you fall out with your friends because they never call you back? Instead of saying, you know, I don't want to be your friend anymore or whatever, or repairing some kind of a falling out you have with the person, they'll just be less and less available for you. Like I think a lot of people have that experience. You call them, you want to make arrangements and make them meet for something, and they're not available. How many times are you going to call them and then be not available? Or how many times are you going to make plans that they cancel? After a while, we all say, oh, I get it. They don't want to see us. They're, you know, and I think that's the kind of thing that happened with these people. And so rather than trying to get to the heart of it and seeing what was really wrong, we just said, well, then we don't care. Then we don't care. We'll do something else too. We'll find something else to do too. And where are we 30 years later? So this is another one of these. It's a life lessons, learning from life lessons. So there you have it. I'm going to turn the camera around and give you some of my final thoughts. So there you have it. I don't know how much of that helped you at all, but it certainly helped me. I was very pleased with the reading. Actually, I was when I first saw the cards, some of the cards coming up, when I dealt the cards out, I was questioning some of them, thinking, oh, isn't this an odd card to come here? Like, for instance, the Five of Wands is my final card. I was not sure of until I really took some time to read the book. You know, I can't recommend that enough. And I know we're out of the habit of reading the book because so many of us get decks that have just keywords, offer just keywords in the meanings of the cards. And I think keywords is that's crap. I just think those are crap because keywords don't mean anything to me, very little. But when you see the author's intent in the deck, you're able to see what little twist, have I said this before, what little turn do they have to each card, and what do they offer in addition? It's an enrichment. It's like an embellishment of the card. In the better written decks that you're going to find that, and you're going to get a lot out of it. It doesn't mean that it can't always mean what you think it means. Okay, it still really means what you think it means. It still really means the Rider-Waite version, or the version that you normally find in cards, still mean that. This is just a little more. It's another layer. It's just much more, and it's enrichment on the card that helps you apply it to more and more and more and more situations. Think about it. If I just said this card means, separation. This card means separation. This card means separation. This card means separation. And any reading that I bring up, oh, separation. You see how vague that is. But if you can start to think and apply something behind it, it gives you color. It gives you some kind of color. It brings meaning into your meaningless. You know, I asked a very basic question. Basic question about, whether I should, am I opening a can of worms that I don't want to open? Or is it okay to do this? Or is this what I really should be doing? And I have several cards of these talk about, action that I should be taking on my part, making the most of things, making the most of something. I have carried something away, something that I've carried away. Having an action, but, not worrying too much about motive or worried about too much about, intuition. What is my intuition telling me? Blah, blah, blah. Is this a thing to do or not a good thing to do? Somebody's really sick. Are you sorry or you're not? Make a decision. Are you sorry they're sick? Tell them you're sorry you're sick. Right? Cut to the chase. Cut to the chase. Clean cut. Okay? This juggling, we can worry about it and worry about it and worry about it. All the time we're spent worrying, we're doing nothing. Okay? Here we have, oh, I don't like this situation. Here we are, so uncomfortable in this situation. I don't know what to do. Do something. Do something. Make some lemonade. Do something. Worrying about the lemons is not going to do anything for you. Okay? Oh, I'm so regretful. I'm so regretful. Well, all's not lost. You still have an opportunity here with two cups. You have an opportunity. Okay? But at what cost? What's the cost? Oh, what's the cost? Well, what is the cost? Is there anything wrong? Is there anything wrong with wanting to have affection back from giving affection? That's not so wrong. It's not wrong. I shouldn't feel guilty about that. I would hope to get affection back, but if I don't get affection back, I'm not the person who's sick. It doesn't really matter what I get out of this. It's what they get out of this. I'm not the person who's worried about losing a loved one. The family's worried about that. That doesn't have anything on me. It's not about what I can get back. It's what I can give. And that's where I have to think about it at this time. Stop the playing games. If we're going to get wrapped up on our games, nobody's going to go anywhere. Nothing's going to accomplish anything. Learn from it. Move on. I like the reading. I hope you like the reading. I hope it helped you. I don't know if it is or not. I'm sorry for the people that are looking at this exercise I'm doing with the Bonefire Tarot, and now they're afraid to buy the deck. People are saying, I'm just going to give up on the deck. I understand that. I still can't shuffle it. I'm really laboring trying to shuffle it. But I'll get it. I will get it. Because I don't know if it's not going to be my everyday deck for the rest of the time. But I think I can get some use out of the deck. I'm going to give another reading coming up. The closer we get to Beltane, I'm going to do the other reading that's in the book about that. And we'll see how we like that. And then I can report back further how I like the deck. But for now we can live with it. I'm still looking for my wildwood though. I'm still looking. Thank you for watching. Like always, I'm Rebecca and I wish you blessings.